quarters, all hands man your battle stations.
Broadcasting live on WNN 1470 AM, 95.3 FM, iHeartRadio, and the World Wide Web. This is Make America Think Again with your Google Blacklisted host, Tom Trento.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Trento Hour. This is Susie Gold. Today is October 27th. It's Tuesday, and that means that we have 7 days left to the election. The decision will be made 7 days from now as to whether our country will move towards freedom and capitalism or whether we will go in the direction of socialism. So, of course, under a Trump presidency, we'd be looking at a free country. And also a continuation of the Constitution and our every way of life that we have become accustomed to. We are on WWNN, that's 1470 AM, 95.3 FM, and we are also on iHeartRadio, which is worldwide. And what are we doing? We have been active in making America think again, as we are in a spiritual battle for America. And I would like to ask Tom, which direction would you like to go today? Man, where do you want to start?
With 1 week left, it's amazing. We have so much to do today at 9:05 in the morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good, yeah. You've been through a lot. Decisions. Do you wear slippers?
No, I never wear slippers.
I have this like old pair of slippers. You know, somebody wears slippers. They're very comfortable. They're worn out. They're
usually
dirty,
fuzzy.
They're ragged. They're fuzzy. But I lost one. Right.
Oh, that's a problem.
I lost one, and I just have, it's not the same when you have a missing slipper. But
maybe it's with that missing sock.
But because it's comfortable. It could be with that missing sock. It's comfortable and it's kind of old and ratty, but you get used to it and you're comfortable with it and all that. Well, found the slipper.
You did.
Where
was it?
He's right here, Damon Rosen. He's right here with us. He's back in the
missing
studio.
Slipper.
There's that missing fuzzy slipper.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Damon Rosen.
Thank you very much.
The best I can come up with in 30 seconds.
And that's a compliment.
And I was just about to say something about Susie Gold actually wears glass slippers.
Oh, that's right.
Sometimes I click my heels together and I end up at the United West.
Yeah. How's that work?
We need to see Damon. I'm not sure I remember what he looks like.
There he is right there.
We're going to put him on.
He's already on. He's on the main screen.
Is he on the big screen? Okay.
He's on the gallery.
We have a delay here. He's waving to everybody. Give us... You were in a hot seat here the other day, but now you're in your seat in the control room. What's going on?
Actually,
man?
Mark and I have switched sides with the lack of the TriCaster, so
that's a little strange.
It's a little bit weird, but it's good to be back.
Yeah.
It's very good to be back. Oh,
am
I getting?
Yeah, here.
You're talking to yourself.
I muted myself. I
was thinking,
unmuted
who's that
myself and
third
remuted
person?
myself. That was weird.
He comes back and the control room goes to.
That was pretty weird.
He forgot he has the two mics going on here.
All right, well, we have a GOP guy coming up in a little bit.
We do in a few minutes. Yeah, he's not on yet.
An oil guy, so we're going to talk about fracking.
That's going to be really interesting.
Well,
An oil guy.
What we're doing is we're presenting just as a legal team. This is the United West legal team. Just as a legal team would present closing arguments on a big hearing. We're going to be doing that. And today, our argument is going to be the United States Constitution. Which party? Democrat Party? Democrat Party?
Joe?
No, you had it right. Democrat.
That was a Freudian slip.
And there's no bias on this show. Democrat Party or the Republican Party has the greatest fidelity to the Constitution. And we're gonna address that and answer it. And we have a couple of ways of doing that. There's actually an algorithm that has been developed where people are putting in sayings from elected officials, and the sayings can determine whether or not they're in line with the Constitution as it was written. Mm-hmm. That's pretty wild.
Well, we know that the Democrat Party and their platform violates the majority of the first 15 amendments to the Constitution.
And we're going to get into that. Right now, I got a little something for you. Somebody sent me this morning. I thought it was not only cute, but I thought it was very, very appropriate in light of our conversation, closing arguments. You know, the Green New Deal, whatever you want to name it, climate hoax, whatever it is,
Yes.
it's going to happen if Lion Biden wins 1 week from today, ladies and gentlemen. So listen to this fairy tale. One crisp morning in Sweden, a cute little girl named Greta woke up to a perfect world, one where there was no petroleum products ruining the earth. She tossed aside her cotton sheet and wool blanket and stepped out onto a dirt floor covered with willow bark that had been pulverized with rocks. "What's this?" she asked. "Pulverized willow bark," replied her fairy godmother. "What happened to the carpet?" she asked. "The carpet was nylon, which is made from butadiene and hydrogen cyanide, both made from petroleum," came the response. Greta smiled, acknowledging that adjustments are necessary to save the planet, and moved to the sink to brush her teeth, where instead of a toothbrush, she found a willow, mangled on one end to expose wood fiber bristles. "Your old toothbrush," noted the fairy godmother. "Also nylon." "Where's the water?" asked Greta. "Down the road in the canal," replied her godmother. "Just make sure you avoid the water with chlorine in it, because there is no running water anymore." Greta asked, becoming a little peevish. Well, said the godmother, who happened to teach engineering at MIT, "where do we begin?" And then she began with a long monologue to Greta about how sink valves need elastometer seats and how copper pipes contain copper, which needs to be mined, and how it's impossible to make all-electric earth-moving equipment with no gear lubrication or tires, and how ore has to be smelted to make metal, and that's tough to do with only electricity as a source of heat. And even if you only use electricity, the wires need insulation, which is petroleum-based. And though most of Sweden's energy is produced in an environmentally friendly way because of the hydro and nuclear, if you do a mass and energy balance around the whole system, you still need lots of petroleum products like lubricants and nylon and rubber for tires, and asphalt for filling potholes, and wax and iPhone plastic, and elastic to hold your underwear up while you're operating a copper smelting furnace. "What's for breakfast?" interjected Greta, whose head was hurting. "Fresh range-fed chicken eggs," replied her mother. "Raw." "How so raw?" inquired Greta. Well, once again, Greta was told about the need for petroleum products like transformer oil and sources of petroleum products essential for producing metals for frying pans, and in the end was educated about how you can't have a petroleum-free world and then cook eggs unless you rip your front fence up and start a fire and carefully cook your eggs in an orange peel like you do in the Boy Scouts. Not that there are any more oranges in Sweden. "But I want poached eggs like my Aunt Tilda makes," said Greta. "Tilda died this morning," the godmother explained. "Bacterial pneumonia." "What?" interjected Greta. "No one dies of bacterial pneumonia. We have penicillin." "Not anymore," explained the godmother.
Not anymore.
"The production of penicillin requires chemical extraction using isotopal acetate, which you know is your organic chemistry is petroleum-based. Lots of people are dying, which is problem-based because there's not any easy way of disposing the body, since backhoes need hydraulic oil and crematoriums really can't burn many bodies using fuel, Swedish fences, and furniture, which are rapidly disappearing, being used on a black market for roasting eggs and staying warm. This represents only a fraction of Greta's day, a day without microphones to exclaim into, and a day without much food, and a day without carbon fiber boats to sell it, but a day that will save the planet. Tune in tomorrow when Greta needs a root canal and learns how Novocaine is synthesized."
So
Poor
you know what, though?
Greta.
The
How
planet,
dare you, Thomas?
Poor Greta.
the planet will be saved and people will be dead.
It'll be the dark ages again.
Well, hey,
without
the good thing there would be no
petroleum-based.
internet. There would be no internet. There'd be no cell phones. There'd be
There'll
no
be
internet. Nothing. Well, that would have all the the liberal left heads explode if they have no internet and iPhone to tweet on all day.
Then there'd be no climate activists.
That's right. There would be.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe it's a good idea.
That may work. That little ditty came from none other than Michelle Terrace, who sends me a million things a day, and I thought that was cute. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you,
for that.
Michelle.
But look, a closing argument, the two sides. One, this climate deal requires rebuilding buildings that
With
as
little
Trump said,
windows.
Did you see the president when he does it?
Yeah,
What did he
little
do?
windows.
Yeah.
And you know what happens though when you have little windows is
Yeah.
people are inside and they're very, very depressed. You need sunlight. You need sunlight to come in the building.
Yeah, but the windows are so small they can't jump out of them.
Now, when he said that, what we're referring to here, 9:14 in the morning. Tom Trento, your host. We got Damon back in the control room with Mark, Mary up there. We got a whole bunch of people here.
Yeah.
Susie Gold. The other day when the president was doing a rally and he goes off the prompter. He's so good off the prompter.
Yeah.
He's saying they got to build new buildings, hundreds
Right.
of thousands of buildings with little
Weeny
windows, teeny windows.
no windows at all.
Yeah, no, he should have said, I built a couple of buildings
Yeah.
and people want big windows. They
Windows.
want to see out. They want to look
Yes.
at the river. They want to see the sun. And you got little tiny windows. What are you going to vote for?
I'd make you a bet, Tom. I'd make anybody this bet. You go into the grocery store and I'll give you $1 for every product you can find that doesn't have any petroleum in it.
Yeah.
And you give me a penny.
All right, I'll see your bet and raise you as a former hero of delivery services, a truck driver. There was a saying, a tractor trailer driver. There was a saying, not a saying, it was a fact. If you got it, complete the sentence. If you got it,
It got there on a truck.
if you got it, a truck brought it. You know that. You were a dispatcher for a trucking firm.
Yep.
Your trucking firm. If you got it, a truck brought it. How did trucks go without gasoline or diesel fuel? Where are they going? How are you going to get this stuff?
How many tires are on an 18-wheeler?
Well, we're going to have all these electrical pumps, right? Didn't Biden say he's going to put them all along the roadway?
Oh, one thing he did say.
Electric power.
Oh, one thing he did say, and it was a very quick statement. He said during the debate the other night, and I jumped out and I said, "Oh my God, someone's finally getting it." He said, "If you guys want to get rid of carbon emissions, go to natural gas." I about jumped out of my seat because I've been such a big proponent of that. It's 1/10 of it, and we have the world's biggest supply of it. I mean, we could take our cars to natural gas so easily.
That would also actually create a lot of infrastructure jobs. Because
you have to put a whole new infrastructure in for the whole gas system. Yeah.
And to put a fine point on this for our listening audience at 9:16 in the morning, Tom Trento, your host, WNN 95.3. I was driving in this morning and before the sun comes up. And you know this, Susie Gold, because you're a professional co-host on a radio show. You know that the AM band is turned down at night, right?
Yeah.
Say yes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I knew that. Of
this.
course I knew that.
Because of the skip nature of the AM band, if it's turned up too high and the density of the air is different at night, you can get this signal can go to California actually.
And it'll kill thousands of birds.
Islamophobic birds.
So they literally have a dial. It used to be a dial in the old place I worked. It may be digital now, but you turn it down at night and then you turn it up in the morning. Well, before the sun was up, I was driving and the 1470 AM was a little shaky. You could hear it, but a little static. I hit 95.3, crystal clear. Crystal clear. So that worked very, very well. But to put a fine point on this, part of what we're arguing in our closing days to the election is the distinction and division between the two parties. Today, the Constitution. But all through this is going to be the theme, spiritual battle for America, and whether or not the Democrat Party holds to any vitality, any reality of a personal God in their political philosophy. None other than David Horowitz, who's been on the show many times, a Jewish atheist. That means you do or don't believe in God.
An atheist. Wait,
No,
an
it's a
atheist or
Jewish
agnostic? I always get confused between
He
those.
calls himself, what does he call himself? Agnostic, right?
Agnostic. He's
Well,
not.
there's a difference
I don't
between the
know.
two.
I
Yeah,
don't
there is
know.
a difference.
Yeah.
No, well, you go ahead.
A theist believes in God. When you put the Greek letter alpha, A, in front of a word, you negate whatever that word is. So if you're a theist and you put the alpha, you're an atheist. You're a non-believer in God. Gnosis, Greek term, means knowledge. If you stick the alpha in front of it, agnostic, I don't know if there's a God. You're open, but I don't have enough evidence, right? None other than David says, I don't know if there's a God, but I do know this. The United States Constitution in this country could not have been founded without the Christian God.
That's true.
A belief in the Christian God. David says that,
Yeah.
which is kind of strange because he doesn't know if God exists, but he says,
the country.
yeah.
Yeah, like how does the other old saying go? Everyone believes in God, and when you're in a foxhole, I'll bet you he would suddenly rethink his theism.
Yeah,
he would. But here's the point we're making in our closing arguments. We've hit this quite a bit. When either God exists or he doesn't. If he doesn't, who cares? If he does, then either he's involved with us on a personal level or he isn't. If he is, which is what all of us believe based upon evidence, then there's some involvement, interaction with him on a regular basis. If you pull that whole dynamic out, boom, no God, you got to fill it with something. Human nature is such that you need something greater than yourself to understand where we came from, why are we here, what's going. These people on the left, when they pull God out, as they have, they replace it with climate change is one of the things.
And abortion.
It becomes their God.
And Democrat Party.
It becomes their God, and they claim follow the science, when in fact they do just the opposite than following the science. So we're going to see this this bizarre phenomenon as we go through our closing arguments. And if you want to make America think again, and you want to be an intelligent voter, listen to what we say and try to get rid of the emotion and all of that. But look at the fact-based information that we're going to be.
I just want to add to what you just said about science is that science isn't exact. Science is constantly changing, and, whatever they think they know, there's something else that's discovered that can counter it, So there's no such thing as
And there's also
science.
been a lot of manipulation of the climate change data over the years at East Anglia University, which was one of the premier institutions that was supposed to be keeping track of that, outed as fake data, manipulated data. And that's the science that should be followed. What's manipulated and what certain globalists, particularly those that want to weaken the United States versus other major economic powers such as China, which did not have to abide by the same climate or pollution controls that the United States did.
And for all you that are saying that the oceans are rising, look at our beaches, they're going away. Me and Damon just had this conversation last night. Is like, no, the oceans aren't rising. The beaches are going down.
The sand is falling. The sand is falling.
It is, because it's third most used resource.
Hi guys.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey,
Is
good
Dan
morning.
here?
Is that
Hey,
Dan?
just popped in.
All right.
This is Dan Eberhardt. Hi.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Welcome. This is Dan
morning.
Eberhardt, just by way of introduction. Dan is the CEO of Canary Oil and also managing partner of Eberhardt Capital, who's also an attorney. We welcome you to the show. Thank you for joining us. And actually, the timing of you coming on is great because we were just having a conversation about gas and oil. And so tell us, what are your thoughts, understanding your history and what you do? And what do you think about Joe Biden's plan to close down the oil industry and stop fracking?
Well, I think it doesn't make any sense at all to me. This is another example of the Democrats having these aspirational ideas that no one wants to pay for and that don't really work in real life. I've always thought this banning fracking thing is an applause line in a Democratic primary. But if you ask consumers if they want to pay twice as much at the pump or if they're prepared to do so, the answer is just a resounding no.
Hey, Dan, this is Tom Trento. Welcome back to the show. You were on a couple of weeks ago. We got 7 days to go. What we're doing on our show, and if you remember, we have been working for 2 years to mobilize 1,000,001 additional evangelical Christians, which is a huge universe in Florida that have not been voting. Get them out in 7 days, and everything's going well. We're going to win this state. We're going to win it big. But the fracking issue is important. Can you simply explain fracking and explain why someone would be against it and why someone should be for it?
Sure. So fracking is typically when you drill a well, you're going about 2 miles down. And then we go basically sideways at a 90-degree angle for another mile or so. And we're creating micro fissures. So think about a 2 to 4 inch kind of micro explosion to be able to draw more oil from a bigger reservoir area. And this allows us to bring the cost of energy down and to get more energy with less holes in the ground, and bring energy costs down. So this is why the industry is forward and why I think it's more efficient. You know, the environmentalists worry about it damaging the water table and polluting. I don't think this is the case. The water table is generally about 900 to 1,000 feet. These wells are drilled, you know, more in the 10 to 12,000 foot range. So there's 2 miles between the water table. And I don't think there's any conclusive evidence that this causes any harm to the environment at or near the surface whatsoever. I think this is just an applause line, like I said, in the Democratic primary. Not, you know, there's not any kind of science behind this that it's a bad thing, and that's why no one really wants to ban it. And that's why people are comfortable investing in the technology and in bringing it about. To me, this is a way to make, you know, energy costs go up, and I think that if you phrase it like that, it's just not what the average voter wants.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm thinking as you're explaining fracking, where's the frack come from? I mean, what gets fracked?
So hydraulic fracturing. So you're using water to kind of push the envelope a little bit to get these kind of 2 to 4 inch cracks 2 miles underground.
Oh, so the fracking is a fracture, like a crack, then. So it'd be
yeah.
Okay,
you're using water. You're using water pressure to achieve that.
Okay. And the term fracking comes from the fracturing of the stone. If you go to a frat house somewhere on any college campus and get a bunch of guys drinking beer and go, "Can you give me what's fracking, man?" And you know the answers you get from those guys.
I want to follow-up question on that. What are the 3 ingredients?
Sure.
Is it like a baby oil, sand, rocks, and water? Is that basically it?
It's basically water and sand, and sometimes you use some kind of chemical proppant. That's a kind of a light part of it, and you're using pressure to kind of create cracks, and then that allows you kind of a bigger straw, if you will. It's like if you poke if you put a straw in your drink and you put a bunch of holes down around the bottom of the straw, you're going to be able to pull liquid from a bigger surface area.
I get it.
Sort of like that kind of a concept.
But the sand comes into play by pressuring the water, or why do they use sand and
by pressuring the underground? The oil is essentially trapped in these like underground caves, underground caverns, right? And so you're trying to basically suck as much hydrocarbons out as you can efficiently, and that's what the business is about. And so having some extra cracks and being able to pull from a bigger, you pay a lot of money for that little bitty 4-inch spot 2 miles underground. And so if you can make that 4-inch spot, 3 feet, that's worth a lot of money.
Okay. So that's where the pressure of the sand comes in to push it out further. Is that correct?
Yeah. And it's driven the energy costs down. This is why, the price at the pump is down and is deflationary over the last 10 years, is because of this technology. And I feel like that's completely whitewashed in all these discussions about banning fracking. No one says, look, we would be paying, $6, $7, $8 a gallon at the pump right now if not for this technology.
Okay.
I just read where I just read where 2/3 of the United States natural gas production comes from fracking. So I could imagine that the price of energy would increase by at least 2/3 if you were to eliminate it. Is that somewhat?
Yeah. If not more. And where the biggest natural gas field is the Marcellus field, which is centered over Pennsylvania.
Right.
Oh, and that's why Joe's in Pennsylvania trying to clean up his fracking.
I did hear Trump mention natural gas in a debate the other night. Is there any more that's happening on that front? Because that'd be huge if we could switch to natural gas on some of our resources.
Yeah, well, I think we slowly are. And what a lot of folks don't realize is these electric cars are powered by power plants that are powered by natural gas. So
exactly.
Look, they want to get rid of the whole thing. If you're just tuning in at 9:28, Tom Trento, your host with Susie Gold here. You're learning about fracking.
This is great. I think without all this stuff, we're going to all end up in caves.
It's the Petroleum Engineering Hour on WNN. We're learning engineering from Dan Eberhardt, who knows a little bit something because he owns an oil company. This is what he does. And but if you think about it, Sure, they want to get rid of fracking because that decreases the available fossil fuel to use, which they want to get rid of anyway. And they don't care if the whole industry collapses. Dan, we just got you for a couple of more minutes. Help us think through. And our motto here is Make America Think Again. And we're presenting closing arguments to our audience to make a decision which way to go on November 3rd or early voting, whatever state you're in. Help us understand. I'm sure in your work as owning an oil company, you deal with city commissions and governments and licensing and all of this. What is going through a person's head, an intelligent person, when they say we have to get rid of fossil fuel and we have to do it in the next 10 years? You know, the earth's changing. Mark, if you could go find Barack Obama's newest home that he bought, I think it's in Martha's Vineyard.
Yeah, it's in 12,
yeah,
$15
I want to
million.
show the people where it's located as part of this nonsense. But what have you found? I mean, objectively, going through their head, what causes them to say we've got to shut down the oil industry?
Well, I think that the Democrats they're trying to get youth votes, and climate change is very important to a lot of folks. And in doing so, they've just completely overpromised what technology can do. Look, all these renewable jobs and the Green New Deal, we can't afford this stuff. The renewable, look, we switched from the BlackBerry to the iPhone because the iPhone was better. When the electric car is better than the internal combustion engine, we'll switch. But the government shouldn't tell us to do it, and it's not the government's place to tell us when to do it. And the government doesn't have the money to pay for us to make the switch anyway.
That's a great illustration from a BlackBerry
that's
to an
great.
iPhone.
Yeah.
I'll give you a real life example of exactly what he's talking about. Is back in the 1800s, our number one resource for fuel was whale oil. And until they started running out of whales. And they came up with this new product that they found out in Pennsylvania, which kind of like, oh, this burns, like a little bit like whale oil. So we'll start using this stuff. And they threw the gasoline away. They just used kerosene. But that's how it all started, was our reliance on whale oil till it ran out. Then we got something cheaper, better. And that's how we came to oil. Is that correct, Dan?
Yeah, and we used, also 150 years ago, we relied on renewable resources in the form of burning wood.
Yes.
Exactly. But again, your one point Dan just made, Tom Trento, 931. We got a full house today. We got Susie Gold next to me here, like every day. We got Damon, the comfortable slipper, back in from Israel, and he's going to be with us for the remainder of this week and probably even longer. And if you're watching on www.theunitedwest.org, you can watch our show streaming. It's a television show that's simulcast on a very large commercial radio station in South Florida, covering about 5-6 million people. If you're watching, what the heck is that? That just popped up on the screen.
That's Obama's carbon neutral home.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it, Dan. This is Obama's new home on Martha's Vineyard.
It looks like a community.
It
looks like 20 families can live there.
It's a gigantic home, 15,000 square feet or so. It is surrounded. It's a peninsula. He's got water on 3 sides, probably 100 yards away. This dude is dead in 10 years. He's going to be underwater. Why would he buy a house out there knowing that it's going to be washed away? Unbelievable.
To prove a point. I think he wants to be able to show that, look, I spent $12 million and now it's all gone. That's why we need to stop this global warming. It's a sacrifice. It was a sacrifice.
Hey, Dan, I have one last question for you.
Sure.
What? Oh, yeah. Fine. If somebody pulls the book up, let's find a way to get it sold. What is your professional estimate? What is the oil reserve capability in the United States here? How much oil do we have for how many years before we got to say, we got a problem?
Oh, I think there's at least another 50 years of oil. And the history of oil and gas is technology changes the curve on how much we have, and when the price goes up, we'll find more of it, and then that will push the price down. I mean, that's the history of it. I also think that, in my book, by the way, if I could push it for 2 seconds, it's called Switching Gears, the Petroleum-Powered Electric Car. And it basically argues that the left is kind of way ahead of what's in terms of overpromising what's possible with electric vehicles, and we're really going to have to live with both in the short term. But we have plenty of oil and gas, and one thing that's completely lost is the internal combustion engine is about 85% more efficient than it was even 8 years ago. So these engines are sipping oil and gas to an increasing degree, and that's being lost and glossed over largely.
Yeah, absolutely. Where could they find your book?
Just on Amazon, Switching Gears, the petroleum-powered electric car. If you check it out, I'd appreciate it.
Great. Yeah, actually, we have it up on the screen now, Dan. And the name of the book is The Switch.
No, I think that's a different one. You have two books, or is it a different
that
color?
the book?
Yeah, the Switch is my first book. It's on America's Global Energy Renaissance.
All right, and now what's the name of the second one? Switching Gears, petroleum-powered electric car. That's pretty cool.
Yes.
You get that, everybody? Petroleum-powered electric car. I mean,
I know. Well, yeah,
kind of
that's the way it's always been. You know?
That's great. Well, that's two books.
Well, my whole big gripe about the electric car. What are you going to do with the batteries after they're done? If you're done with the car, where are you going to put them? What's going to happen to them? They're going to you can't. They're toxic. They're death things to throw away. Am I correct about that, Dan?
Yeah. No. Look, if you look at the carbon footprint to get the cobalt in the battery, exactly, that's up to 8 years of driving around an electric car. So, and again, the electric car industry does not want you to find this out. Also, disposing of these electric cars is a toxic thing that we haven't figured out how to do. 80% of the value is in the computer, and disposing of the battery is a huge problem that we haven't yet solved with the electric car.
I say we ship them all to California. We can send them to California.
Right. Can I just ask a quick question? Is there any chance that the automotive industry will move to natural gas away from the high octane regular gasoline?
They definitely can. We've got an infrastructure deficit to do that, but it definitely burns a lot cleaner. And effectively, that's what having an electric car is, shifting the burden to the power plant that's powered by either natural gas, coal, or nuclear. And it's increasingly natural gas. So the dirty little secret is we're not transitioning away from oil, quote unquote, what Biden says. We're becoming increasingly reliant on natural gas, which puts an increasing burden on Pennsylvania and the pipeline infrastructure out of Pennsylvania to the rest of the country.
And you just lost every Democrat voter in the world.
That's what we were talking about. It's a great infrastructure job plan. If they did a natural gas, highway type project of like Eisenhower highway project for the natural gas industry, they could.
Yeah, but one of Dan's arguments is, well, let's let Dan go, then we'll argue.
Yeah, Dan, thank you so much for joining us. We don't want to take more of your time.
Question. I want him to answer that.
Well, we got to get going. We got a lot to.
Yeah, we need to have an hour with you, Dan, or more. We need 3 hours.
I appreciate it. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at DANKEBERHART. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining in.
What were you going to say?
Bye.
All right, bye, Dan. Take care.
No, I was saying we could have a Eisenhower highway project for natural gas. We could shift this country into a whole new era.
Well, one of his arguments was keep the government out of it. He's saying, like with the iPhone, from a BlackBerry to the iPhone, let private industry make that. When the government starts saying you got to make a new phone, it's got to do this, this, and this. That kind of highway project would be okay. Now the government's going to tell you what has to happen.
No, I mean about letting the leases go, letting the lands, giving the right of way for these.
It could be a combined cooperative effort.
And say, listen, we want we'll cut you a tax break if you go from gasoline to natural gas.
That stuff works. If you go to any major city now, I mean, most of the big buses are all natural gas. There's a lot of
cars is 90% of it.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
It really, what it did for me, it really threw out of the water what Biden was talking about, and he says he wants to be energy independent by, in 5 years, I mean, where did he pull that out of the sky? And the thing is another thing is that when you're listening to this stuff, it's like, oh, well, because he said it and because Biden has a microphone, it's like, oh, I must believe
gotta
it.
be real.
And you know what? They don't tell the truth. And we need to do our own homework and investigate further to really know what's possible, what's impossible, what's going to make our life impossible. And certainly what Biden said is something that's just not doable. And then when he went flip-flopped with fracking, yes, fracking, no fracking. I don't know that he knows what fracking is.
He's fracking nuts.
Well, but here's the other thing about national security on our energy independence that Trump has taken us to. Biden's going to want to put us back on energy dependence. Our energy independence has allowed us not to be into these Faustian deals with Iran and Saudi Arabia and all these other,
and at the mercy of these other countries. That's right. This is what we strive to be independent.
Well, the other issue is the left is they simplify things. There's no complexity to it. Get rid of that car that's making those emissions. Okay, well, let's just take a step back. Where'd that car come from? Well, go to Detroit and go look at the huge car factories. How do those factories work?
Mm-hmm.
And whatever you're going to replace it with, what's going to make the factories work to make the thing you're replacing it with? And that was
windmill, Tom. A windmill.
But you know what? That's why capitalism works. That's why independent companies work, because they're experts in their field. Because a guy's a politician just doesn't make him an expert in oil or fracking or global warming or any of that. That's why you have those around you that it's their area of expertise. That's the brilliance of capitalism.
And our closing argument. Maybe we'll do the Constitution tomorrow. Today we're on the
energy.
I thought
we were doing energy today.
Okay. That's fine.
Let's film the constitutional thing after the show, maybe, and we'll use it for tomorrow, like we talked about. But let's stay on energy and jobs.
No, but here's the deal. You got a guy who for 47 years, he sat either in Congress or in the House or the Senate or the White House. 47 years dealing with all these issues and regulations and all that nonsense, never really from a fiduciary point of view in terms of the consumer and the economic impact of all of this. They'd run a study or something and whatever made sense for his party. He was an advocate for his party. Along comes a businessman who says, wait a minute, this is crazy. Your political philosophies have terrible ramifications for people who want to put gas in their car and go to work. And he's thrown a monkey wrench, Donald Trump, into their whole insanity. And now in a closing argument, do you want a businessman who signed his name, maybe a machine did it, on probably millions of checks, probably millions through the years, 50,000 employees, whatever he has for 30, 40 years, all the checks every week. And how many checks has Joe Biden signed his name to? You know, closing argument?
One that Hunter. Hunter, we know for
he
sure.
He signed the back of a lot of checks.
Seriously, for those of you considering voting for Joe Biden, how many checks has he signed his name to where he had to? I've had little companies and you got to come up with money to make a payroll. Where's it going to come from? You got to sign the thing. People want to eat. They want their food. He's never been in a position to have to do that. Yeah. Donald Trump has done that all his life.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Exactly. And just to put one more nail into the coffin of the electric car, it drives me insane. Where do you think that stuff comes from? Not just the natural gas has to power it. It has to go through something. It has to go through an electric line, correct? And our electric grid is 98 to 99% full. And you want to add on top of that, you want to see some blackouts roll through your city, just keep pumping on more.
Well, where's the electricity come from?
Coal.
Yeah. Coal,
natural gas.
Doesn't that have stinky dirt that comes out of the coal?
No. It's the magic wall socket. You know.
Hey, what are solar panels made of?
It's all magic.
It just shows how ridiculous.
But this little AOC girl, Alexandria Ocasio-Castro, whatever,
the court packer,
El Castro Cortez.
12
but
years.
It's such a pretty name. The New Green Deal. Doesn't it sound so nice? It's a nice story.
It's a fluffy deal.
Oh, well. So what are we going to do? We're going to buy electric cars or not? Yeah, there's something for electric cars. I'm a car guy. And
yeah, I like the speed, the pickup, and everything.
well, they have immediate torque in their
Yeah, yeah,
electric
yeah. Boom.
motors. So whereas a combustion engine has to build RPMs to get through the power curve, this thing is right. You step on the gas. I rented a Prius once. What a goofy little car that thing
That
is.
Prius
I
would
can't
smoke your
picture you in a
Porsche.
Prius.
Prius will smoke your Porsche, that's for sure.
I went to California and I said, I'm going to rent that car for a week. And it's a weird experience. Anybody ever drive? an
I
electric car?
Yeah.
have. Yeah. It's really weird. I didn't know it started. I didn't know
Yeah,
it was
it's like,
on
is
because
it
it's so
going?
quiet. I'm like, how do you make it go?
But you know, there's a place for them, and at some point there'll be a transition. But to come in and centralize, again, closing argument, have a centralized government managing a deal that is going to involve every aspect of every person's life for the next 30 years is insane. That's the Soviet Union's approach. That's how communism has a necessary political structure to it, centralized management. Donald Trump has been arguing, even on the Wuhan flu, that, hey, there's 50 states here. You guys, I gave you what you need. You wanted ventilators. I'm making ventilators. I'm sending ventilators to the moon. I got so many ventilators. They're falling out of my truck. You know, you guys manage your own problem. I saw this lady, I think in Indiana, whatever, African-American health official crying, talking about the deaths of all the people in her state. And I'm saying, and they blame Trump. I'm going, it's your state. Take care of them. Do a better job than what you're doing. Why are you blaming it? Well, because he doesn't wear a mask and other people haven't worn a mask and everybody dies.
Right. The mask
Crazy.
is the end all.
These people want total control of your lives, and the closing argument on the Republican side, there's freedom.
You know, 38% of United States electricity is generated by natural gas. 67% of that natural gas is created by fracking. So you're talking 25% of the country's energy needs is met by fracking. And these people want to eliminate that. So you're looking at a minimum 25% increase in the cost of electricity to everything from cool and heat your home and run your lights, everything. 25% increase for every household minimum.
Anybody ever used natural gas to cook with?
Yes.
Have you, Tom?
Natural gas?
To cook with?
Yeah, I think so.
Susie?
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Isn't that propane is natural gas, right?
No, propane is not natural gas. Methane is natural gas. And because the way it comes, the way you get natural gas is you have an oil well, okay, and in the middle is the oil, and off to the sides are the pockets of the natural gas. I mean, it's a natural byproduct of oil. So, but it's really cool to cook with. We had it in Atlanta, and you could you can actually adjust the flame exactly as you want. I kind of like it. It's kind of cool.
Somebody just sent me, our friend Tom Hayes. There's a new technology in battery industry that may make your arguments look obsolete. Look up the glass battery, 1,000-mile range, 1 minute recharge time.
Okay, all right.
That's pretty funny, and I can't even get a phone signal inside of the studio here.
There actually is a glass battery, but it's, they're trying to figure it all out and everything.
I'm sure they'll be available at Walmart next week.
1,000-mile range and 1 minute recharge. We'll sign up for that.
And the lithium crystals power the Star Trek Enterprise too.
All right, look, we're doing edutainment here on the Trento show on the what is the date?
Today is the 27th.
Oh, I got it right there. I got it on the clock.
Tuesday
the 27th.
All day.
7 days. Go out and vote, everybody. Record numbers. About 65 million people have voted, and that's the largest number ever. They're saying Florida may get up to 83%. 1982, I think it was 83% turnout, the largest. Since then, it's been 75%. If it gets up into the 75-80%, this is going to be a landslide for Trump, definitely.
So the question came up this morning as we were talking before the show is, here you have the second debate and we're learning more things about both candidates. And when we heard Biden say, that he wanted to get rid of oil and fracking and his plan to close down the oil industry. So the question was posed as to what if you voted and you wanted to change your vote because you're like, what? This is going to harm us.
Oh,
This
right.
is no
This guy's
good.
nuts.
This is nuts. This is not good for the country. This isn't good for us. This isn't good for my family. Can you change your vote? So Mary did some Googling and some discovery and found that in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan, you can change your vote.
So you vote for Biden. You hear his nonsense. You go, this is crazy.
Right.
But
And you're like, what? I voted for
Okay,
Biden. I
okay.
don't want to vote for Biden. I got to vote for Trump.
Not to mention the scandal that's come out.
Of all the, the
Yeah,
Biden
other
stuff
things. So
and more and
there
more
are a
things.
few rules around it, but let's say for those that live in Wisconsin, if you voted early in person, you can recast your ballot as long as it's done by this Saturday. In Minnesota,
If you voted early, I mean, this is not just absentee?
Wisconsin, right? The Wisconsin voters
Wow.
who voted early in person can
pretty
recast their
liberal.
vote. The deadline for absentee varies by city, so you have to contact your city clerk for more information.
Not Florida, though.
Not in Florida, no.
I'm
Minnesota
sure,
and
sure
Michigan.
no one will be trying to vote twice for the same candidate.
But that's in those states if they made
All right,
a
now we
mistake.
gotta mention Amy
Of
Coney
course,
Barrett. I mean,
absolutely.
this is historic,
Yeah.
unbelievable
History, yeah.
what happened.
Unreal.
We have a billboard up, but can you read? a
And
couple
on
of
Hillary's birthday.
Yes,
And
and we
yesterday
put that
was
on our
Hillary's
billboard.
birthday.
We had some friends that bought billboards, and we talked them into letting us put some messaging on them. And one of them, we're going to pop it up right now so you can see it. It went up yesterday morning before she was confirmed last night. What a ceremony that was!
It was beautiful.
And as a conservative, as a constitutionalist, everybody has to be moved. If you're a
Yes.
pro-lifer like me for a long time, you have to really be moved because I saw something that was just amazing. The White House ceremony where Justice Clarence Thomas, and I remember what he went through to be confirmed, where he gave Amy Barrett the oath to recite
Isn't
after
that
her.
something?
And if you look at that picture, and Donald Trump's in the
Mm-hmm.
background, you get the White House there, and these are both hardcore pro-life people.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know what the judges are going to do, but you anticipate they're going to follow through with the way they think and believe. But what struck me was, and this is on the conservative side of the agenda, not on the liberal side. You would think this would be a liberal symbolism. But in reality, when you're dealing with truth, this is a conservative symbolic vision that I saw last night that I'll explain very briefly. You have Justice Clarence Thomas reading the oath she had to take. You have Amy Barrett with her husband holding the Bible, her left hand's on the Bible, her right hand. And you look at that imagery, you look at that, and you see on the right-hand side of the screen a black man
Mm-hmm.
swearing in a white woman in the U.S. Senate. Where has there ever been a black man swearing in a white woman? Not the Senate, in SCOTUS, in the Supreme Court. You have the two oppressed classes,
Yes.
both at the epitome of service for their country. What a beautiful picture that was, and they're both Christian conservatives. Absolutely amazing.
Racist misogynist. That Trump.
Absolutely. What a beautiful picture. Now,
Incredible.
Susie Gold's going to read a couple of names here. These are the Democrat women.
By the way, I want to interject. She is the first nominee to not graduate from Yale.
Oh, from an Ivy League school.
And
Yeah.
that was very,
She was Notre Dame, right?
Notre Dame.
That's amazing. Midwest. Susie Gold's going to read some of the names of the women last night that voted nay.
No.
These are every single female Democrat senator. Yeah, just read their names.
Voted no. Kristen I'm not sure I'm saying it.
Cinema.
Cinema, Jackie Rosen, Tina Smith, Kamala Harris, of course, Tammy Ducksworth, Catherine Cortez Masto, Margaret Wood Hassan, Tammy Baldwin, Elizabeth Warren, of course, Mazi Hirono from Hawaii, Jean Shaheen, New Hampshire, Kristen Gillibrand, New York. Amy Klobuchar, Claire McCaskill, Maria Cantwell, Debbie Stabenow, Hillary Clinton.
No, she's not there now.
Well, she wouldn't have voted for it.
I think there's 16.
Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. I skipped that. I'm sorry about that. Susan Collins.
Yep.
Patty Murray. Dianne Feinstein. Yeah.
Every single Democrat woman voted no. And the question, closing arguments, the question for honest and open-minded people, if you'd listen to the hearings where Amy Barrett went through like 50 hours of interrogation, some of it really hostile. Have you ever raped anybody? I mean, crazy stuff. And you look at this individual, there's the beautiful picture of Clarence Thomas with the president, Amy, and her husband, Jesse. If you look at Amy Barrett, you look at her bona fides, you look at her curriculum vitae, you look at her life, you look at her service, 5 natural kids, 2 adopted kids from Haiti, on and on and on. You have the definitive, prototypical, perfect woman in existence, top of her class at Notre Dame, teaches at Notre Dame, sitting on a federal court, writing extensive, in-depth, scholarly decisions on cases. What is wrong with this person? A woman, isn't it? Don't women want to see other women rise to the highest level possible, break that glass ceiling? Why did every Democrat woman vote against this absolute Avenger superhero woman? Exactly. Why?
Because they don't love the Constitution.
I think that's at its core.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And we can get rid of the 4 in our billboard, Tom. Did you get rid of the 4?
Get rid of the 4, yeah, because she's in.
Yeah.
All of these women, and it is mind-boggling, and we'll make more of this in our closing arguments. All of these women worship at the altar of Baal. Mm-hmm. Baal in the Hebrew Bible was a place where children were sacrificed in fires to various gods, and the imagery of that today is the abortion butchery industry, where children are sacrificed. Follow the science. This is a baby, are sacrificed for self-indulgence, self-satisfaction, whatever. And all of these women on the Democrat side who are pro-abortion couldn't vote for this phenomenal individual who believes in God and wants to protect children. You want a closing argument? There's your closing argument.
I have to admit something that I just learned about recently, and I feel pretty stupid, that abortion, the Supreme Court said that abortion was a right under the amendment that allows privacy.
14th Amendment.
Privacy. I don't understand. Does that mean that if I kill Mark in privacy at Mar-a-Lago, it was just the 2 of us. It's just the 2 of us. That was a private moment that I murdered Mark. Is that not, do I get to stand behind the 14th Amendment and say, no, you cannot prosecute me?
Well, it was a 7-2 decision back in 73, Roe versus Wade. And the dissenting side argued that. And the argument was, where in the 14th Amendment, the right to privacy, do you find a right to kill your child? And the answer was, and it's in the decision, it's in the penumbra, penumbra of the language, and the penumbra of the 14th Amendment. It's in the
penumbra of babies he wants to kill.
Well, and then you look up penumbra, because it's not one of normal. It's one of these legal archaic terms, and it simply means the shadows. It's not there clearly to see, but if you look at that shadow, that could be a picture of Jesus, or a lion, or a mouse jumping through a ring. Like the clouds. It's in the penumbra. More of this during the week. We'll see you tomorrow.
Show. Great show.
Yeah. Go drive your electric car, you crazy people, you. Give me a good old 8-cylinder.